So my question today is, what are some Sonic games that I think really do deserve and actually need sequels? Let's discuss right now.
I got hot sauce in my bag, swag.
A quick shout out to Con Dranton. This is a fan art of Metal Duckles that they drew, and this is very interesting because Metal Duckles doesn't look like he's doing very good here. His arms are gone first of all, and his beak looks a little bit demented, and so I'm not sure what's going on with Metal Duckles here. He does have some Chaos Emeralds around him, so maybe he's powering up to his monstrous form, but I really dig it. It's a very nice and interesting interpretation of him, so thank you so much, Con. I really appreciate it. Anyway, hello there beautiful human, my name is RidersDX and welcome to my channel, where today we're going to talk about the possibilities of sequels in the Sonic franchise. And so, sequels are by far some of the most requested video games from fans in general. I mean, the reason for that is, quite frankly, it's way easier to ask for more of something we like rather than coming up with a brand new idea to petition to game publishers. That's just a fact, you know, it's so much easier, and quite frankly, most of us are lazier, so we can't really think of like brand new ideas for games, but we love the games that they came out with, and we would love to see more of what we liked. So sequels certainly have their place in the gaming world. When you stumble upon that rare but fruitful idea with one video game, it only makes logical sense to capitalize off of it with a sequel that expands upon the original ideas and makes it even better than the first game. Sonic is absolutely no stranger to sequels, as quite a few of his games in the past have received them, both direct and spiritual. But I'm here today to list 5 games that I think would have amazing sequels that would bring tons of benefit to the Sonic franchise. Well, okay, no, it's more so just games I think would have awesome sequels. But hey, that's the beauty of the internet, because you can go right into that comment section and scream at me for not including your favorite title. So if you have any games that you think should have a sequel that I didn't include, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can be nice, you don't have to be nice. I really could care less. This is my list, so sit back down and listen to it. But with that said, here's my top 5 list of Sonic games that I think deserve sequels. Coming in at number 5 is Sonic Colors. Now, I know this game has a questionable reputation within the Sonic community, which still baffles me to no end because quite honestly, it was a solid game then, and it still is now. I will admit the dialogue was very cringy at times, but that's a simple fix in a sequel. The main reason I would love a Sonic Colors sequel is because I love the setup of traveling to different amusement park attractions in space. It gave the developers a lot of creative freedom in terms of designing great looking levels, and so I think a game that expands that concept into more attractions would be such an awesome idea. You know, I love how Planet Wisp looked, I love how Tropical Resort looked, I love how Sweet Mountain looked. I can only imagine what else they could do in terms of like different ideas for different park attractions. It might take some explaining as to why Eggman is creating another park, or they could even go ahead and just have a completely different plot that's still similar in concept. But I just think Sonic Colors has some of the best levels in the Sonic series, so I'd love to see that same creativity in another Sonic game, and I think a Sonic Colors sequel would be a really easy way to do that. Sonic Colors is also one of my favorites because of how much platforming was in it rather than the boost to win nonsense we've been getting a lot more of lately. Now, granted, most of the platforming was in 2D, which is something I would like to see them address in a sequel. I would love to see them challenge themselves by adding more 3D sections within the levels with platforming, but I like that there was more focus on the platforming over boosting, so I would love to see that same design mentality, but try to convert that to a 3D space rather than constantly using the 2D space. I really think Sonic Colors has a nice blueprint to expand the boost formula more towards that direction. It's really just too bad that its dialogue gives it such a bad name nowadays, though I can't deny the facts. The game's got some really weird and awkward lines, and I definitely wouldn't want to see that kind of comedy come back in a Sonic Colors sequel. You know, I remember when this game first came out and everyone was actually praising it to no end just because it was different from what we've been getting up to that point. You know, people were getting really sick of like the adventure-esque storylines that were more serious and dark and moody, so people just really liked the fact that Sonic Colors was different. But just because it's different doesn't necessarily mean it's good, and I think with time people have seen that like Sonic Colors really didn't have very good writing and the story was pretty subpar, but back during then it was like a gigantic breath of fresh air, and so it's really interesting how opinions can change sometimes. But if Sonic Colors did get a sequel, I definitely would not want the dialogue to be as cringy. Coming in at number 4 is a choice I'm actually a little bit confused about. Confused as in I have no idea why I am putting this in my list. It's almost like an unwanted magnetic attraction that I have towards this idea. A love that you know from the very start is a bad idea, but you can't help but get more and more of it. That game is none other than Sonic R. Sonic R is far from one of my favorite Sonic games. I haven't played it in years, but when I did, the control was just so awkward and jagged. The racing just didn't feel intuitive, yet despite its flaws, the game remains a very famous title within the Sonic franchise. And I think a big reason is quite honestly the fact that it was Sonic's first 3D racer. And also its music. It's extremely catchy, mind-blowing music.
Can you feel the sunshine? Does it brighten up your day? Don't you feel that sometimes you just need to run away?
But if you think about it, Sonic R embodies what people actually expect out of a Sonic racing game. Sonic's fast, and he's fast because of how fast he can travel on his feet. So why wouldn't you want to make a racing game where Sonic is running, rather than being in a cart or on an airboard like we've seen recently? You know, a lot of people actually question like why Sonic is in a cart, and so why not give the people what they expect? You know, give them a racing game where Sonic is actually racing on his feet. The problem with Sonic R is that it was just poorly executed, but I think a racing game with Sonic and friends on their feet still has a ton of potential to be loads of fun. Do you remember that multiplayer mode in Sonic Adventure 2? That was so much fun for me as a kid, and basically how I envisioned a Sonic racing game on feet would be like. Heck, a racing game using the boost formula could also be tons of fun. Either way, a Sonic racing game on foot has definitely not been explored fully if the only game you have to show for it is Sonic R of all games. I think a Sonic R sequel or a new game with a similar concept could be a blast to play. They really have not explored the idea to its fullest potential, and so I really do think that's something that they should try again. At number 3, I've got a pretty personal choice here I guess, but I would love to see Sonic Heroes get a sequel. I feel like there isn't a lot of people backing a sequel to this game, and that's probably because the fanbase itself is so split on whether this is a good or bad game. I would just say, without going into enormous amounts of detail about the game itself, which I do plan to do at some point, but the gameplay is solid. You cannot look me in the eye and tell me these mechanics are outright broken, because that simply isn't true. Sonic Heroes is a very solid game, albeit with its shortcomings, but I just thought the team mechanic plays really well and was a unique experience within the Sonic franchise. Plus, it was a really great excuse to include all these different characters that were all playable. I mean, there really isn't any other scenario where it'd be feasible to have this many characters be playable in a mainline game. And I'll say it, I love the Sonic franchise, and seeing all these characters come back as playable options would just be great fan service in my opinion. A sequel could really tighten up the controls, offer great fan service, and just improve upon the gameplay style that we otherwise would never see again. And so, I think Sonic Heroes has a lot of potential to come back and be an even better game than it was before, and you know, be a nice little distraction from the mainline Sonic games. At number 2, I know I already listed a racing game, but I really can't help but list this one. For crying out loud, it's literally my name. Yes, I want to see another sequel in the Sonic Riders series. Am I the only one who had a ton of fun with these games? I hear so many negative outlooks on how these games were impossible to control, cringy in their art style and dialogue, and so many other things. I personally found the gameplay to be tons of fun. I played the original Sonic Riders for hours and hours every day for months when I was a kid. If the game had online play, it would legit be one of the only games in this world I think I'd stand a chance in. So, you know, me being like the horrible player that I am, I gotta take those games where I can get them, and so I would love to see Sonic Riders come back just so I can finally like be competitive in a multiplayer game. But besides that, Sonic Riders was just such a unique concept for a racing game. It was similar to F-Zero, but that was it. Otherwise, it was a pretty like unique experience, especially among like all the other racing games within the market. And since F-Zero doesn't seem to be coming back anytime soon, the series could very well fill in a gap within the racing genre market. Maybe make the sequel a little bit more accessible to players, but still maintain that complex control, because I think it's important to make sure that like your game is easier to get into, but at the same time that there is room to really grow in it to become a better player and really dominate the online races. And I think Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled is a really good example of having a gameplay mechanic that can do this, and I fully believe and am very confident that Sonic Riders could have that same potential. And also, just don't make the game exclusive to a dying device that's exclusive to a console. And you know what I'm referring to. I'm referring to Sonic Free Riders, which was exclusive for the use of the Kinect on the Xbox 360. I just have a feeling the game's more likely to fail when you limit it to that small of an audience. I'm just saying. And finally at number 1, this is a choice that I'm sure is gonna drive someone in the comment section bananas, but I would love to see a sequel to the Sonic Adventure series. Yes, I'm basically asking for a Sonic Adventure 3, but it doesn't necessarily need to be called that, obviously, and quite frankly, I think it'd be a very terrible idea to call it that. But nonetheless, I just want another game that's similar in lots of ways to the adventure games. I want that adventure-esque gameplay of Sonic and Shadow levels to be very prominent in this sequel. But I also would love to have another story within the same vein, as a big part of me really does miss those stories that were much easier to invest yourself in compared to what we're getting nowadays. I mean, I'll never forget when I saw Sonic go against Perfect Chaos, or I saw Sonic and Shadow team up to defeat the Biohazard. Is it the Bio Lizard or Biohazard? I don't remember. Like, these moments really defined like my video game childhood. Like, I just thought that they were so epic, so amazing, and it really did show me like the great power of teamwork, the great power of positivity and happiness, you know, all those cheesy things that you come to know me for. And so I just think those stories had such a charm to them because of those lessons that they taught me. There was just something so endearing about taking part in an adventure on the scale of the adventure games. These games were set up in a way that the stakes felt high and that your actions had great impacts on the outcome of the story. But the games recently, you don't really have those stakes. You don't really have that feeling of like, wow, the stakes are really high over here, I need to do well. The stories and overall adventure feel just makes it feel like much more of an afterthought rather than a quality to build up in the game recently compared to before. Plus, I'm quite tired of the boost formula at this point. I think it'd be so beneficial to switch back over to the adventure formula to mix things up. Just because you tried again and failed miserably with Sonic 06 should not mean that this gameplay style shouldn't be visited again. You all made these games before. There's absolutely no reason Sega and Sonic Team can't make an adventure style game that's better than the previous ones. Who knows, maybe with a potential adventure remake coming, the sequel may not be out of the question. So, I don't know, we'll just have to wait for the future. But that is my list of top 5 games I would love to see sequels to. And so, I want you to let me know in the comment section below what Sonic games you would love to see sequels to. Do you agree with my list? Are there some games you think I missed? Are there some games you think I shouldn't have on my list? Let me know your comments in the comment section below. But okay, thank you so much everyone. I really appreciate you tuning in and watching this video. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to my channel if you like videos like these, want to see more in the future, follow me on Twitter or Twitch, and join my Discord server, the Spongy Garden. Special shout out to Reese Gaming, Team Rival Sonic Gamer, and Glitched Out. And these are my patrons / YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member, get access to a whole bunch of different perks, and please check out the links in the description box below. But okay, this is Riders, riding out.